All right, what's up? So we've got basketball player here, Montez Loman. This is my boy here, 6'6", 145 pounds. No, he weighs 195 pounds, right? He is 25 years of age, and this is his off season. So he actually played at Tennessee State, but then was able to go on and play professionally as well. So he's playing professionally. Where have you played now?
I played in Central Africa, and I played in New York, this American League, and I was on my way to going to Indonesia.
Yep. So started his career Africa, bounced over to New York, was supposed to be headed to Indonesia, but now is obviously dealing with all this stuff. So in his off-season training, so big thing for him, basketball player in his off-season. Right, we're basically trying to work on some basic fitness development, right? Being in that off season, so building strength. We want a little bit more of our higher volume, right? And then just a moderate to high intensity, right? Not crazy. We're not going to be doing a lot of plyometric work. It's about kind of developing that base fitness level for him. Basketball player, patellar tendonitis, stuff like that. Trying to just make sure he's strong enough so that we can progress into that preseason where he can start to then build power, build more strength, right? Increase that intensity, lower the volume a little bit more, and start to peak to try to get into that season. So working on building a little bit of good endurance, right? A little bit of plyometric stuff with our warm-up, and that'll be the first thing I take him through with you guys. It'll be that good warm-up. A little bit of plyo, a lot of just mobility, and then accessory stuff, just making sure we get everything activated. All right, so first thing of this warm up, right, a lot of this activation, especially when we're doing lower body stuff, is getting those glutes and getting that posterior chain activated. So first thing I'm gonna have him do is actually go through some lateral walks, right, lateral banded walks. So what he's gonna do is get low through this position here, good athletic stance, and he's gonna start to just go ahead and drive 10 steps to the left, and we're gonna go 10 steps to the right. So he can go ahead and start here. He's just going a nice step, keeping some distance, keeping those feet about a shoulder width apart as he's going through. He's going 10 down this direction, coming back 10 this way. So again, engaging those glutes, right? Making sure those are firing properly so that when we squat or we hinge or whatever it is, we're making sure we're using those big muscles there. Once he finishes 10 there, 10 by 10, he's just gonna give me 10 good body weight squats. So again, part of this warm up is starting to practice some of those movements that we might be doing through our training, right? So on this squat, he's gonna be pushing those hips back, pressing those knees out, trying to screw those feet into the floor. Yep. Trying to make sure, there you go, good. You can probably spread the feet out a little bit more. He's got a thick band on here too, so you're going 10. Good. And it's all about just getting that body warmed up and prepped and ready to go. So again, keeping that tension in the floor, knees out, hips back, and he's driving up tall. Once he finishes 10 there, he's gonna go ahead and jump onto his side, and we're gonna go some mini clams, right? Some mini band clams that he's done before as well. Yep. So he'll go onto his side now, right there. This mini clam, again, now we're thinking about, kind of getting into that glute med, thinking about that posterior chain. So he's gonna bring those knees up, perfect right there. He's gonna try to keep those feet together, and he's gonna try to open that band up as far as he can, come all the way back down. There you go, good. That's one, yet you can go a little quicker than that. Our goal is gonna be to get 10 on each side. Again, we're still hitting that glute activation here. Glute activation is gonna be huge. There you go. When we're squatting, when we're absorbing force, whenever we're doing any of that stuff, we want to make sure that posterior chain is kicked on, right? Once he gets 10 that side, he's going to flip over, go 10 on the other side. We'll then take that band off. We'll do some kind of some dynamic warm-up stuff. Then get into a little bit of plyometrics, and then we'll jump into this workout. So again, the goal of this one, keeping those feet together, driving out with those knees, getting those hips going. That's nice. Yes, sir. Once he finishes, he can pop up and go take that band off. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna go into that world's greatest stretch. And I like usually about 3 3 sets of this. We're gonna do some PVC rotation as well. So now what we're thinking about doing is we're getting into the T-spine, right? So it's just gonna be right about here. He's done this one before, both hands on the inside of that leg. He's gonna reach the inside elbow down, rotate all the way up and big to the ceiling. Reach that elbow, rotate all the way up and big. You got 5 on each side. Once we finish that, we'll do some pass-throughs with our PVC pipe to open up the shoulders. There you go, both hands on the inside. Now reach that inside elbow down, and then I want you to rotate all the way up and big, look up at the ceiling. There you go, reach again, there you go. Good, so this, one of my favorite movements to do with whoever, right? This is a great movement for opening up the hips, opening up the groin, but then also getting that T-spine mobility in. So any rotation, or we're trying to work on that rotation through that T-spine. Once he hits 5, he can go ahead and stand it up if he needs to, or just switch to that other side. We're gonna get 5 on that other side. Looking for how deep he can get here, right? There you go. That T-spine is gonna play a pivotal role, right? A big time role in a lot of these athletic movements we're gonna do. So this one here, he's gonna grab this PVC pipe, he's gonna go overhand, nice and wide, and he's gonna try to rotate, keeping the arms as long as possible, all the way up and over his head as far as he can, and then come all the way back through. He's gonna give me 10, you can go as fast as you possibly can here, and that's going to start to show where he might be tight. You can go wider if you need to, but try to keep everything in. There you go, and then come all the way back through. And what we're doing is we're just kind of greasing up those shoulders a little bit, getting some movement into the chest, into those shoulders. Good, there you go. Nice. Yep. Yes, sir.
10.
Yeah, let's go 10. All the way up and all the way over on this. Good. Once he finishes, we're gonna have him go right back down into that world's greatest stretch, lizard lunge, whatever you want to call it there. Go ahead and hit another 5 by 5 just to get some rotation in this one. So before this, what we did not show, so he did some steady state cardio on his own. A lot of the times I'll have my athletes get on the bike for 5 minutes, get on the treadmill for 5 minutes, get on something in order to just now raise that temperature of the body a little bit. He was actually kind of doing some jumping jacks, just getting some movement in while I was finishing up my own workout. So he was able to get that temperature up. You want to cruise somewhere between, not anywhere higher than 75% of that max heart rate for roughly about 5 minutes. That's when we then jump into our dynamic workout, and that dynamic warm-up. And that dynamic warm-up is going to be just completely based on what we're basically doing for the day. So if there's a lot of sprinting or something like that, it'll be a lot more dynamic stuff to prep the body for explosive running. Today, it's a lot more just lifts, right? Off-season lifts. We're prepping the body for a moderate to high load that we're going to be lifting. So he's going to hit 10 more reps with this. Once he finishes this, we'll go into some dynamic stretches to get the hip flexors going. Yep, we'll do some last little bit with to get those hip flexors going once he finishes these 10 on this PVC pipe. Nice. There you go, Ted. There you go. Nice. Last thing we're gonna do, right? A couple sets of, usually anywhere between 2 to 3 sets. We're not trying to fatigue, but we are trying to prep the body for what we're gonna do. We are gonna do a little bit of plyo stuff. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna call it 6, right? Knee into the chest, right? And then you're falling right into a hip flexor stretch. And then I just want you to do the other side. So I want you to go ahead and hit me 3 on each side. We'll have you start back a little bit further there and just kind of make your way towards the camera. So basically what we're doing is now prepping that hip flexor a little bit. This is gonna be a big one when you're dealing with sprinters, runners, anything like that. Pull that knee in the chest. I want you to just take a big step forward, drive the hips forward. You can even bring those hands up, feel that stretch in the hip flexor. That's money good. And then just step right into the next side. There you go. Good. He's got big old legs, so he might not even get a full 6 in. But again, trying to prep here a little bit, get those hip flexors going, get some mobility in, but it's also a little bit more dynamic. We're not doing anything static. We don't want to do static stretching before, Okay, you actually lose a lot, you'll lose a little bit of power if you do static stretching before. So we want to do something to prep the body for movement, which is going to be a little bit more dynamic. Hold that forward.
Yeah.
Perfect. 5. Yeah. 6. There you go. Good. So what he's going to do now, just to get that heart rate up, we're going to keep 6, roughly about 6 here. All right. Little squat. He's going to give me a jump up top, but he's going to work on landing soft. Okay. We want 6. Start to prep that body for absorbing that landing. Okay. Again, this is part of our kind of plyo stuff that we're starting to get in. So always give me a good squat. He's getting up, landing soft, right into the next one. Give me 6 continuous. There you go. Good. 2. Yep. 3. There you go. Good. Land a little bit softer. Try to absorb. There you go. 4. Good. 5. Good. 6. Good. You can roll back. We'll go one more time through that. Walk in hip flexor. So with him, he's got a little bit of patellar tendonitis, I believe is what it is in that right knee a little bit. So yeah, same thing here. Just pull that knee. Yeah, there you go. So that's, you could even actually kind of see it on that squat a little bit, him favoring one side over the other one. So that's going to be something that we work on. That's also a reason why we got to be careful about how much plyometric load that we're prescribing to our athletes, especially during that off season. He's doing basketball trainings in the morning most of the time. He's getting enough plyometric. That's what basketball is. He's doing a lot of jumping and a lot of landing. So he's loading those tendons over and over again already through that stuff. So we don't need to prescribe that much plyometric. A little bit of stuff just to make sure we're good to go. And then really just focus on getting strong through all of these movements. So once he finishes 6, we're gonna do the same thing again. I want him to concentrate on being low. Yeah, so just concentrate on going slow on the way down. And you don't have to go for height, right? Just land soft. Just give me 6 here. Don't get height. There you go, just right in the next one. There you go, good. Use the arms, there you go, good. 2, there you go. 3, yes sir. 4, land soft, good. 5, yes sir. 6. Sir. So the warm-up is complete. Now we're jumping right into, I like adding a little bit of that plyometric stuff. Again, he's got some pain going on in that knee. That patellar tendon is flared up a little bit, so we want to make sure we're not pounding too much on that. So with him actually being able to, right, as a basketball player, he's able to, and it's very important for him to be able to produce force, to be able to jump, right, and to be able to change direction, okay? But it's just as important, if not more important, for all athletes, right, especially basketball players, to be able to learn how to absorb that force as well. So something that I continue to work on with him, a lot of my other athletes, is going to be that force absorption. A good way to do it is this, basically this depth jump, right, or where you're stepping off of a surface and you're having to then land in an appropriate way to be able to absorb with all those big muscles that we need to. So for him, right, he's gonna be just stepping off, right, just one leg coming off. He's then gonna catch in a good athletic position. He's gonna hold that for about 2 seconds. He's gonna climb right back up there. We're gonna go 5 reps of that. Then we're gonna produce some force, full body force, especially coming from the upper body. He's gonna jump right behind him. He's gonna do a ball slam for 5. We're gonna do probably around 3 to 5 sets of that. Nothing crazy, I think probably 3 sets. But that's just gonna be, kind of get the heart rate up a little bit, but again, get some plyometric stuff going. So he's gonna go ahead and start with this depth jump. He's gonna step off, try to land as soft as you can, hold for 1, 2. He's gonna step back up there, yep. On this movement, you'll see a lot of athletes come up onto those toes, right? They're coming up on those toes, very quad dominant. So with him, we're working on trying to sit back in those hips, absorb, and then be able to stand up. Yep, so basically if I was to tell him to now be able to create that force, right? Use that SSC or that stretch shortening cycle, right? We've now caught, stretched those muscles, caught with that force, and now we can produce that force, right? So he's just holding for that 1 to 2 seconds and then be able to produce that force in a direction. So he's going for a couple more reps. 1, 2, there you go, good. One thing with him is we're gonna try to make sure he's even on both sides, right? Make sure he's landing even and evenly distributed on both sides. 2, there you go, good, yeah. How's that knee feel doing it? Once he finishes those 5, he's gonna grab that ball, just take a couple steps forward. in the frame, you should be good there. Ball is coming all the way up overhead. He's then gonna slam that ball down, catch it off the ground, right? It's his 14-pound ball, so nothing crazy heavy here, and he wants to catch that off that bounce here. So whenever he's ready, all the way up overhead, use those legs, slam that ball. Yep, just 5, just 5. Hard as you can. Yeah, there you go. 1, good. 2, there you go. Yep. 5, there you go. That's good. There you go. Once he hits that, the rest a little bit. We're gonna go through 3 sets of that. Again, making sure form is good, making sure if anything's bothering, we can modify a little bit there, right? Force absorption, a little bit of plyometric stuff with that ball. So, done our warm up, we've done a little bit of plyometric work, now we're getting into our strength, right? Again, the volume, getting a little bit higher volume, not crazy though, right? What we're gonna work with is 2 big primary movements today. First thing we're gonna do is a incline chest press. Incline chest press, working on that big push, right? A little bit more of that horizontal push, okay? Kind of getting to that vertical a little bit just because we're inclined, but working on that shoulder health by keeping those shoulders back and down. 5 reps, so we're gonna go 5 sets of 5 reps. I'm gonna let him get through this first set here, and then I'll kind of talk through some of the stuff I'm looking for here. Good, shoulders are backing down. Good, turn those dumbbells in a little bit here. There you go, right there. Good, let's go. There you go, breathe here. There you go, good. Good, up, good, 2, good. There you go. 3, good. 4, yeah. 5, there you go, good. Down on the legs. There you go, down. Yeah, there you go, rest. So one thing that we'll always try to instruct those athletes is to make sure we've got that scapular retraction through that press. So making sure we're avoiding keeping those shoulders coming up into the ears, right? We want to keep those shoulders down and back. I like a slight turn into those with those hands, right? And that's actually going to help with keeping those shoulders back and down. We want to feel the shoulder blades wrap around the bench below us, drive through with the chest, not use these little supporting muscles up in the shoulders to then get out, right? We don't want to see these elbows chicken wing out. We want them in almost a good, 45-degree angle or so, in nice and tight. That head of that dumbbell should be going right about armpit. So for you, just bring it, I'd say even a little bit tighter in when you come in here. So it's almost looking like here instead of out here. Make sense? Yeah. How'd that feel?
That was good.
5 sets of 5, since we're going a little bit heavier load, right? So not crazy, but a little heavier load. Usually we look for about, anywhere between a minute and a half to and up for a rest, just kind of depending, right? Just to make sure he's good to go. Sometimes I'll superset and add some stuff in between. Today we're just gonna focus on this primary lift. So he can go ahead, we'll go into this next set here when he's ready. Good, shoulders are backing down. Hold on 1 second, turn a little bit lower. There you go, right about there, good. Now we drive up. There you go, good. Yep, good, exhale out, good, 2. Shoulders back down, got 3, good, lost that left arm, good. Up, 4, good. Yes, 5, there you go, good, there you go. How'd that feel?
Yeah, that's
Straight? I say we stick with that 55 for now.
Yeah.
So a couple things, right? Baseball players, basketball players, a lot of shoulder work, especially with baseball players or athletes that are throwing. Sometimes this overhand grip, right, your pronated grip, can put a little bit more stress on those shoulders. And since they are so repetitive, right, those throwers tend to go a little bit neutral. So any of my athletes basketball players, baseball players, whatever it is, especially if they do have shoulder problems, sometimes bring them into that neutral grip helps a little bit. Everything else looks pretty solid though. We'll give yourself another like 25 seconds or so. All right. Incline chest press. This is gonna be a good one for, all of my athletes. Basically, we're trying to stick to our 5 big movements: our push, our pull, our squat, our hinge, and our weighted carry. So progressive overload is something we're going to be looking for as we get closer to his preseason, trying to add a little bit more weight, trying to get a little bit stronger so that we can really start to peak once he gets into that season. But movement quality is going to be the most important thing. Good. Turn it in a little bit. There you go. Just a Yeah, drive from here. Go. 2. Yes, sir. Go. 3. Good. Up. 4. Yes, sir. 5 and down. There you go. Good. Yeah. There you go. Rest. All right. So secondary the secondary movement that we're doing. The next primary movement that we're doing is going to be an RDL, so a Romanian deadlift. This is a great movement to target those hamstrings, those glutes, that posterior chain that I was talking about. Great movement for making sure that we're getting strong back here to take pressure off of the knees, right? In his case, right, be able to get stronger back here to help with some of that patellar tendonitis that we're dealing with. So with this movement, you can do it with dumbbells, you can do it with barbells. Today we're gonna be doing it with dumbbells with him, starting usually about a hip's width or so, okay? He's bringing those dumbbells in front of the body. His shoulders are gonna be rolled back and down. From here, he's now beginning that hinge movement. So with this hinge movement, the movement comes from the hips, and he's just letting those dumbbells go straight down the legs. He's driving hips back, hips back, hips back, till he feels the stretch. Then he's driving back through with the glutes, right? He's keeping, go ahead and go. We're gonna go 5 reps just like that. Should be a nice, slow, controlled movement on the way down. Hips are driving back, then he's driving right back up into that neutral position. So core should be engaged the entire time. Hips are going back, squeezing through the butt and the hamstrings as he comes out of 5. We're going 5 reps. Yep, hips back, good. There you go. Drive back and through. There you go. He should continue to drive those hips back as he's going back, soften up those knees. Slight bend in the knees, slight bend in the knees, right about there. Now drive. There you go, that was better, yep. Feet should stay screwed into the floor. There you go, and rest. Yep, you can go ahead and rest. So as he's resting, again, same things kind of apply on this one. Just like a squat, keeping the feet drilled into the floor, right? Almost screwed into the floor. That's gonna help kick that butt on, right? Shoulders are always rolled back and down. That's gonna help keep us neutral, right? Keep that core engaged. We also want to think about, right, making sure our athletes aren't overextended through that back or coming into that rounded position either. So it should be neutral, right? Softened up the knees. That hinge movement should be driving the hips back at the same time that we're going down, right? Until we feel that big time stretch here, never going past, right, the place where our hamstrings are telling us to stop, because that's when we're going to start to get into that lower back. So it should be just going into that place where our hamstrings are telling us to stop, driving back up and through those glutes and those hamstrings. I'll take him through another set here of that. We'll go through 5. Lower weight, especially on movements like this, until they're able to get that form completely right, just so we can stay out of that lower back and avoid injury. So with this one, good neutral spine, softened up the knees. Then he's gonna go ahead and start that hinge. He should end up looking to the floor. Good, right about there. Drive up. Good, there you go. Good, soften the knees a little bit. Good. Now he's driving hips back, probably right there. Now drive up. There you go. Yep. Doesn't have to go super deep through this movement. It's all about driving the hips back as he's going down. Core is engaged. Good. Now squeeze to the butt all the way up. Good. So it's about using those legs, right? Using that posterior chain. We're strengthening the lower back, but not stressing the spine. There you go. Good. Go nice. Yep. Good. Letting the dumbbells go straight down those legs right about there. Good. Yep. There you go. Just 5 reps. Then he'll go ahead and rest. We'll give him a little bit longer of a rest here, roughly about, minute and a half to 2 minutes. We're going to start to get a little bit heavier as well. Keep him somewhere around that 5 rep range. All right, so we did our 2 primary movements with Tez. We got our incline chest press in, we got our RDL. So we did an upper and a lower, right? We got actually a pull for our lower body, we got a push for our upper body. We're actually gonna go through I always like getting some accessory. So again, we wanna keep the volume up a little higher. So we're gonna go through anywhere from 3 to 5 sets. I think we're gonna have 3 sets today of, I call it accessory work, but I still want that full body, those compound movements. He's an athlete, right? We need to make sure he's strong in all planes, right? In all directions, vertical, horizontal, push pulls, right? So one of my favorite movements we're gonna do is a renegade row. Renegade row is going to be something that not only is going to be working on that core, it's a heavily core-oriented movement, but it's also going to be working on now a horizontal pull, right? So a row, okay? So with this movement, he's going to be lining up. Usually it's going to be wrists right underneath those shoulders, right? Feet are going to be spread out just a little bit here to kind of keep that base strong. And then from here, he's gonna try to shift the weight, pull one weight into that hip, right? He's gonna give me a nice roll, keeping the hip still. He's gonna control all the way back down. Yep, there you go. He's gonna give me a next side. So you can go ahead and roll, give me 10 here. There you go. While he's rolling through, the goal is to try to keep the hips as still as possible. Keep the core tight and keep that flat posture here. So sometimes what I'll do is actually I'll grab their hips, try to keep them still as they're going through, right? Big time core exercise, but then also working on that scapular retraction and that pull. So this is any of those pull exercises that you do, or a lot of those pull exercises that you do, will help with that shoulder health, right? So once he finishes 10 with that, we're actually gonna superset this into a single leg pistol squat. The more you can get your athletes onto single leg, the better, right? They spend most of their time on a single leg anyway. So we wanna make sure that stability and the strength is there through a single leg. So we're doing a simple exercise today. We're actually gonna raise him up a little bit because that patellar tendon is bothering him a little bit. I'm gonna have him start seated onto the box so he can go ahead and sit down on that box. We're gonna take a seat. We're gonna go right leg first. A pistol squat is a great introductory movement to work on that eccentric lowering of the movement, but that's also that concentric driving up on a single leg. So we're building some knee stability, but also being able to work through that posterior chain as well. So what I'll do is I'll tell him to raise that left leg up off the ground. From here, we'll make sure that right leg's in a good position, so ankle's up underneath that knee. Also, always try to cue that right knee, trying to press out a little bit as well, so we can kick that that glute on, right? So girls tend to have that knee caving in, or athletes that have mobility problems or are just not as strong as they need to be in those hips, that knee will tend to cave in, right? So we're always pressing that knee out. From here, his hands can go out in front of him, his core is tight. He's gonna press through midfoot, so big toe, pinky toe, and heel press into the ground. He's gonna drive up all the way tall while keeping that leg up. If he needs to put that leg down for a second for balance, he can. And now what he's gonna do is try to control himself on the way back down. So drive those hips back. He can use his hands out, and then he's gonna go all the way back down. There you go, that's one. We're gonna go 5 of those. There you go. 2, yep, control on the way back. There you go, good, yes. 3, if there's any pain, you can move that foot back a little bit if you need to too. There you go. 4, nice. So you can see, right, we're working on that stability, we're working on that balance. A lot harder than it looks. Once he finishes 5, he's gonna go to that other side, try to put that foot, you can start seated. This, you can control how hard it is, you can increase the tempo, you can increase the intensity, right? To increase the intensity, you can actually, right, obviously go into a lower surface, right? A lower box, lower the box down, go onto a bench, something like that. You can also start getting into a just body weight version, right, where there's nothing there and you're going down as deep as you can, but obviously you need the mobility and the strength of that single leg. So, and at some point too, we can actually jump into, right, maybe doing a goblet hold or something along those lines. Third movement we're gonna do is going to be this pull-off press. Pull-off press, this is gonna be our third core movement, right? So we did our kind of our upper body core focus movement there. We did lower body here. Now he's gonna jump into this pull-off press, and I'll bring the camera over while we're doing this one. But basically his hands are going in to this band. He's gonna step out to the side. He's gonna press out from the center line. So we want a good athletic stance. He's gonna be pressing, trying to keep a straight line from the chest. He's gonna give me 10 reps each direction. I'll grab this camera so we can get a little bit closer here and show. So what he does, come out to a little angle this way so you're not on that box. There you go. He's gonna screw those feet into the floor. He's in a good athletic stance, and good, shoulders are back and down, cores are engaged, and now he's gonna just start to press that band out and control it on the way back in. So he can adjust the intensity, right, by stepping out further from that post as needed. There you go, good. You can go a little quicker there. There you go, we're getting a full 10. So what we're doing is we're actually working some anti-rotational core. That band is trying to pull us one direction, right? We're working on that rigidity of the core and the torso, which is going to be huge, right? That is that coil between the upper body and the lower body that helps with movement, all of our athletic movements and change of direction and jump in, right? That is our base, basically, is that torso and that core. There you go. Once he finishes 10, he goes ahead and rests. We'll do a few sets of that. So what we're looking for is roughly about 3 sets of all of those movements there. Renegade row, pistol squat, and pull off press. 3 to 5 sets. Keep the volume up. Make sure he's getting the heart rate up a little bit here, but making sure that the quality of movement is there too. So we'll go probably 3 to 5 sets there, then we'll jump into that cool down and that stretch. All right, so that's the full workout, right? We got that full workout in. Load is complete. Now what we do is we make sure we get a little cool down in. If we did a lot of sprinting or running of some kind, right, we would do a little jog just to kind of gradually get that heart rate down. Since it was more of just our lifts, we made sure we gave him a little time to recover. Now he's gonna go into now we can hit that static stretching, right? So now he's gonna go into one of my favorite hamstring stretches. He's gonna keep that trailing leg straight. He's using a band assisted hamstring stretch. And so just like most athletes, right, he's gonna be very tight through that posterior chain. And this is gonna be one of those great stretches for that hamstring. We hit those today with those RDLs. So for this one, I recommend my athletes hold these for anywhere up to, from 45 seconds to 2 minutes, especially if you're super tight, to really let that muscle kind of get into that, right? You can hold for, let that muscle kind of open up and really let yourself get into that stretch properly. So he'll hold this one for a while here. We'll go to the next side, and I'm actually gonna have him just demo kind of what this next stretch would be. So we'll let you go ahead and relax there real quick. Next stretch I'm gonna have him do, we're gonna make sure, I'll take that band from you. We're gonna get into the hips a little bit more, so it's gonna be a figure 4 stretch. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna cross his right leg up over top the left leg while he's in this position. So just take that right leg, cross up over, reach the right hand through the hole, reach the left hand up and around, and he's just gonna pull everything in tight towards him. So this is the same thing as a pigeon pose, they would call it, right? But now what we're doing is actually getting into that hip. So again, another area where a lot of people are very tight, a lot of athletes are very tight in through that hip. So now this is an area that we can actually kind of try to open up through here. He will hold this one again, anywhere from 45 seconds to 2 minutes, probably average. I'm having my athletes hold for anywhere from 45 to about a minute. So it's kind of just depending. We want to hold these static stretches at the end of the session. I'll let him hold this one for a couple more seconds, and I'm going to show you guys 2 more stretches that I'm going to have him do. Next stretch we'll do is we're just going to go into a basic groin stretch, and this is something that we've done before. So what I want him to do is he's going to actually put his right knee down on the mat. He's going to kick his left leg out just at an angle so he's not, there you go, there. And from here, he's just going to start to press down and back with his hips. He can use his hands to support himself. And so what he's going to start to feel, keep that leg straight, there you go, and just find a good stretch there. So you should feel here through that adductor and that groin. So he's going to be feeling on this one, right, down through the inside of his leg. And so we're hitting into a little bit of the groin, right, but really getting into that adductor on the inside of the leg. So these are just some of the bigger stretches that we're making sure we're hitting after these sessions. A lot of times with these athletes, right, they know where they're tight, they know where they're sore, so they're going to take care of their business afterwards. But I'm there to make sure at least we're hitting those big muscle groups, the hips, quads, right, hip flexors, groin, and then also taking care of some upper body stuff, torso a little bit here. So he would hit this side. Basically, the final stretch that I'm going to have him do is going to be one of my favorites for the hip flexor and for the quad. What we'll do is we'll actually load him up on a pad here, and I'll show you guys the setup. So basically, left knee down, pad, up. Here, right, those laces down. We've done that one before. So the final stretch that I'm going to show you guys that I'm going to have a lot of my athletes do is going to be this quad hip flexor stretch here. So
This is an easier variation, right? We've got the mat down to kind of support that knee. His laces are up on a bench. And what I'll cue the athletes to do is to then just start to drive those hips forward, right? So just start to press those hips forward. He's gonna start to feel either a little bit more of that pull in the quad or that hip flexor here, right? He can even take that left hand and throw it up next to that ear. So just bring that arm all the way up, there you go, to try to open up that front side of the body a little bit more. So soccer players, anybody that runs, basketball players tend to be very tight to those hip flexors as well. So this is a great one to kind of open up. But then it's also gonna target that quad, which was one that we used a lot today.